All right, so welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're tackling a story that's probably got a lot of you nodding your heads in solidarity. JetBlue, the airline, just got slapped with a hefty fine for something that plagues us all: flight delays. You got it, $2 million to be exact. And here's the kicker. This is the first time the DOT, that's the Department of Transportation, has ever fined an airline specifically for having too many delays. It's a pretty big deal. It sets a precedent for the whole industry. Like, they're saying, hey, enough is enough. So let's unpack this a bit. The DOT is saying JetBlue's guilty of unrealistic flight scheduling, which to me sounds like promising flights they couldn't actually deliver on. Yeah, basically the DOT is telling JetBlue to get real with their scheduling practices. Like, you can't just keep adding flights without considering things like air traffic control capacity or, potential weather disruptions. Makes sense. But how bad were these delays? I mean, we've all experienced delays, right? What made these worthy of a $2 million fine? Well, the DOT has specific rules about what they consider a chronically delayed flight. And it's not just a one-time thing. Flights got to be flown at least 10 times a month, arrive over 30 minutes late more than half the time. And get this, cancellations, they count as delays too. Oh, so those last-minute cancellations, those add to the problem too. Oh yeah, they definitely factor in. And I'm guessing JetBlue had quite a few of these chronically delayed flights, huh? More than a few, actually. Yeah. The DOT pointed to 4 specific JetBlue routes that were chronically delayed, at least 145 times between June of 2022 and November of 2023. Whoa, that's potentially thousands of passengers affected. Speaking of those passengers, do we know which routes were hit the hardest? Yeah, they highlighted JFK to Raleigh-Durham, Fort Lauderdale to Orlando and back to JFK, and Fort Lauderdale to Windsor Locks, Connecticut. So if anyone out there has flown those routes recently, listen up. You might be eligible for a piece of that $2 million pie. Oh yeah, you heard that right. The DOT is actually splitting the fine. $1 million goes back to affected passengers, and the other $1 million goes to the U.S. Treasury. Okay, so it's not all going into some government black hole. Nope. They're actually giving some back to the people who suffered through those delays. Well, good for them. But what about JetBlue? What's their take on all this? I mean, they're not just going to take this lying down, right? Of course not. They're pushing back. JetBlue is arguing they've invested a ton, tens of millions of dollars, actually, in trying to reduce these delays. So are they saying it's not their fault? Well, they are pointing fingers at some factors outside of their control, things like air traffic control shortages, especially in the Northeast and Florida. So basically saying, hey, we're trying, but the system's working against us. Right. And they even released a statement. They said, and I quote, "Accountability for reliable air travel equally lies with the U.S. government, which operates our nation's air traffic control system." That's a pretty bold statement. So they're not shying away from this fight. But let's be real, how does JetBlue's on-time performance stack up against other airlines? Are they really that bad? Well, the DOT actually keeps track of this stuff. Their latest report, which covers January to September of last year, it shows that JetBlue had a 71.29% on-time performance. That's not great. Yeah, it puts them 9th out of the 10 major U.S. airlines. 9th. Oof. They're not winning any awards for punctuality anytime soon. Not exactly. Yeah. To give you some context, Hawaiian Airlines had the best on-time performance during that same period. They clocked in at a cool 82.69%. Wow, that's a big difference. So if you're looking for a reliable airline, maybe avoid those JetBlue flights to Florida for now. But what about other major airlines? Where do they fall on this whole on-time performance spectrum? Well, Delta came in at 80.63%. United at 77.75%, and Southwest at 76.78%. So while JetBlue's performance isn't stellar, it's not completely out of line with the industry average. Okay, so maybe this isn't just a JetBlue problem, but more of a widespread air travel issue. I mean, what does this mean for the average traveler like me who actually needs to, fly places? Should we just accept these delays as the new normal? That's the big question, isn't it? I think this whole JetBlue case just shines a light on a much larger issue. And that's the increasing strain on the entire air travel system. We've got more people flying than ever before, but the infrastructure hasn't kept up. It's like trying to pour a gallon of water into a pint glass. Something's got to give. So what you're saying is that even if JetBlue fixes their scheduling, this issue isn't going away anytime soon? You got it. Yeah, this is a systemic problem, and it's going to take a lot more than just one airline to fix it. This is getting interesting. Oh, it definitely is. And you know what? There's another layer to this whole air travel puzzle that we haven't even touched on yet. Really? Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm all ears. Okay, so we've got this aging air traffic control system, and a whole lot of frustrated flyers. Yeah, it's like we're stuck in the stone age of air travel technology. You know, it makes me wonder if part of the problem is the airlines themselves. Are they over-promising and under-delivering, squeezing in as many flights as possible just to boost profits? It's a valid concern, for sure. That pressure to maximize profits, well, it can sometimes lead to compromises, compromises in operational efficiency, and ultimately a worse experience for the passenger. So it's a bit of a balancing act, right? It is. We want airlines to be profitable, keep those fares competitive, but not at the expense of our sanity when we travel. Exactly. Finding that sweet spot is key. A sustainable model where airlines thrive, passengers have a good experience, and the whole air travel ecosystem stays healthy. But let's get practical here. What are some actual solutions? I mean, I can't just wave a magic wand and create more air traffic controllers or build new airports overnight, right? Right, of course not. These are complex issues that need long-term strategies. But there are things we can do in the meantime. Okay, listen. One promising avenue is investing in advanced air traffic control technologies, like next-gen. Think GPS-based navigation, much more precise, and better communication systems between pilots and controllers, just smoother overall. So basically, upgrading the system to something that can handle the volume of air travel we have today, exactly bringing it into the 21st century. And what about staffing? We hear about those air traffic controller shortages all the time. Right, and that's another piece of the puzzle. We need to attract and retain qualified controllers. That means offering competitive salaries, making the job attractive, better working conditions, robust training programs, the whole package. Makes sense. But I'm curious, what about the airlines themselves? What can they do to improve their on-time performance? Well, they can start by being more upfront with their scheduling practices. Instead of cramming in as many flights as possible, they need to factor in realistic buffer times. For things like weather delays, air traffic congestion, just the realities of aircraft, and maybe a little extra padding for those inevitable tarmac delays. Right, it's exactly. Got to account for those. And when delays do happen, communication is key, wouldn't you say? Absolutely. Instead of leaving passengers in the dark, airlines should be proactively sending updates, offering alternative options. Imagine getting a text message saying, "Hey, your flight is delayed, but don't worry, we've already got you on a later one, and here's a voucher for a free meal on us." Now, that's what I'm talking about. Knowing what's going on, having options, it would make those delays so much less stressful, for sure. But, there are times when delays are just unavoidable. True, Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate, and sometimes things just happen. Exactly. But even then, clear and timely communication can make a world of difference. It's all about managing expectations, feeling like the airline's got your back. But this whole conversation has made me realize something. Passengers aren't just helpless victims in all of this. Right, we have some power too, don't we? Absolutely, more than you think probably. Okay, I'm all ears. It starts with being informed and prepared, doing your research before you book, checking the airline's on-time performance, familiarizing yourself with their baggage policies, packing accordingly. So basically taking ownership of the situation, not just showing up at the airport expecting everything to be perfect. Exactly. A little preparation goes a long way. And don't forget those passenger rights we talked about earlier. The DOT is working to make airlines more transparent about fees and provide those automatic refunds when they're due. Right. It's empowering to know we're not just at the mercy of the airlines anymore. You've got that right. We've got resources, we've got rights, and we can use them to advocate for a better travel experience. That's the spirit. And speaking of a better travel experience, there's another key player in this whole air travel puzzle we haven't even talked about yet. Oh, one that can really make or break your journey. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. All right, lay it on me. Who's this mysterious player that can make or break my next trip? Well, we've covered the airlines, the air traffic control system, even our own roles as passengers. But what about the places where all of this action comes together? The airports themselves. The airports. I guess I never really thought of them as a major player in all of this. But they are. They're like these bustling mini cities where everything converges. Planes, people, luggage, you name it. And they face a whole set of challenges that directly affect your travel experience. Okay, like what? Besides those never-ending security lines, of course. Well, for starters, many airports are dealing with aging infrastructure. They were built decades ago when air travel was a fraction of what it is today. So they weren't exactly designed for the sheer volume of passengers and flights we see now. Exactly. It's like trying to cram a jumbo jet into a parking space meant for a compact car. Not a pretty sight. And I imagine it leads to a lot of bottlenecks and delays. You got it. On top of that, airports are also grappling with the need to modernize. Modernize, huh? What does that look like in the airport world? Well, it's everything from upgrading those baggage handling systems we all love to hate, to implementing new security technologies, making things smoother and more efficient, and of course, enhancing the overall passenger experience, making those layovers a little less miserable. Okay, so it sounds like they've got a lot on their plate. They do, but they're tackling it head on. So how are they going about modernizing these massive transportation hubs? Well, one major trend is airport renovations and expansions. A lot of airports are undergoing major overhauls to accommodate the growing number of passengers. Like, what kind of overhauls are we talking about? Specific example, take JFK, for instance. They've got this massive multi-billion-dollar redevelopment plan in the works. Whoa, multi-billion, that's a lot of dough. It is. It involves new terminals, improved roadways, even an air train connection to the Long Island Railroad. It's a pretty ambitious project designed to really modernize the airport and improve the experience for everyone. Well, that sounds promising. It seems like airports are finally recognizing the need to invest in the future of air travel. They are. And it's not just about building bigger and fancier terminals either. There's a growing emphasis on sustainability. Sustainability, okay, how does that play into airport design? Well, we're seeing more sustainable design principles being incorporated into airport construction. Like what kind of principles? Like energy efficient lighting and HVAC systems, water conservation measures, even on-site renewable energy generation. Wow, so they're trying to make airports more environmentally friendly too. Exactly. It's about recognizing that airports have a significant environmental footprint and taking steps to minimize that impact. That's awesome. I'm all for a greener way to travel. But sometimes it feels like airports are stuck in the technological dark ages. I still have to print out my boarding pass sometimes. You'd think in this day and age. Yeah, I hear you. But things are changing. Slowly but surely, okay? Airports are starting to embrace technology to streamline operations and make things easier for passengers. What kind of technology are we talking about? Well, you're seeing more self-service check-in kiosks, those things where you print your boarding pass yourself. Right. More automated baggage handling systems, which hopefully means fewer lost bags. Fingers crossed. And even biometric screening technologies, which could eventually make those security lines a breeze. Biometric screening, like scanning your fingerprint or your face. Exactly. So those sci-fi movies where you just walk through a scanner and you're good to go might actually become a reality. Well, we're not quite there yet. But these technologies are definitely moving us in the right direction towards a more seamless and efficient airport experience. I like the sound of that. But at the end of the day, isn't the real measure of an airport's success how well it connects people to their destinations? Absolutely. An airport's primary function is to facilitate the movement of people and goods. And that requires striking a delicate balance between efficiency, security, and passenger comfort. So it's not just about fancy terminals and high-tech gadgets. It's about creating a seamless and enjoyable experience for everyone who passes through those airport doors. You got it. Yeah. And that's where collaboration between airlines, airports, and government agencies is key. Oh yeah, they all need to be on the same page. They do. They need to work together to ensure that the entire air travel ecosystem is optimized for efficiency, sustainability, and passenger satisfaction. Wow. After this deep dive, I'm starting to see airport delays in a whole new light, right? It's not just about one airline or one flight. It's this complex web of interconnected factors. Exactly. It's a whole system. And the JetBlue case was just one little piece of that puzzle. So what's the key takeaway here? What can we do as passengers to make this whole air travel thing a little less turbulent? Well, I think it comes down to a few key things. First, be informed and prepared. Do your research, pack smart, arrive early, and know your rights. Second, be patient and understanding delays happen, and it's often nobody's fault, just the nature of the beast. And finally, be an advocate for positive change. Support policies and initiatives that promote modernization, sustainability, and passenger-centric solutions. That's great advice, and it's a good reminder that we're not just passive participants in this whole air travel saga. Exactly. We have a voice, and we can use it to make a difference. Well said. This has been an incredible journey, really eye-opening. From JetBlue's find to the broader challenges facing the air travel industry, we've really explored the ins and outs of this complex system. We've learned about the airlines, air traffic control, airports, even our own role as passengers. And I think we're all walking away with a better understanding of how everything fits together, and hopefully with a little more knowledge and a lot less stress the next time we travel. Well said. Thanks for joining us on this